So what are your arguments in court with the Employment Equity Act or report?
Thank you, and thanks for having me on air. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is a case that we launched over 2 years ago. We got to argue this about 3 months ago. We're waiting for a judgment on it. But the reality is, we very much believe that equity should be given, that there should be equity in our workplace, and that we should be reflecting the demographics of South Africa. The problem that we've got is that we've had the employment equity legislation now in our statute book for almost 28 years. And during those 28 years, we've gone backwards. We've not reflected the equity. Now, if you look at the Constitution of South Africa, which is our supreme document in South Africa, it says that we need some sort of regulation or action to reflect equity at the workplace. It doesn't say that what we need is quotas. It doesn't say anything of that nature. What it says is we need to reflect equity. And we believe that this experiment that has been done now for 28 years has been a complete failure. Now, we've heard this, even the argument in the court, we've heard from the Minister of Employment and Labour's Council in the courtroom. We heard how this act has failed, and therefore they are going to try and make it tighter. They're going to try and tweak some nuts and bolts. And how they're doing that is that they're now adding quotas as opposed to targets. So now you've got a list from the minister of the percentage of the workforce that has to be black, Indian, colored, disabled, women. You're not going to be able to tweak the legislation that has failed for 28 years. You're certainly not going to reflect any better merit of demography in South Africa. So what we're saying and we're arguing is, and the courts have always turned down quotas in the past. It's not constitutional to have a quota. It doesn't take into account the business. It doesn't take into account the economy. It doesn't take into account where they are, what they actually do. And we've asked the court to have a look at this very carefully in terms of our constitution